Well, your father at that time was one of the most high-profile figures in the world, really. I mean, everybody knew about your father and his legacy and things that were going on. Let me ask you, did your father ever try to steer you into the life to follow him, or did he want you to stay out of it?
He always encouraged me to stay out of it. He always said to me, you have to study, you have to do whatever you want in life, you have to choose what you want to do for your life and for yourself. And and I'm very sure that if I always, if I could ask him that I just want to be a gangster like him, he would say, okay, let me show you how to do it. But at the same time, he was always encouraging me to study. He was saying to me, if you want to be a doctor, I want to give you the best hospital in town as a gift for you. Or
Hmm.
if you want to be a hairdresser, I'm going to give you a salon, whatever you want to do in life, but do
Right.
something, study, and choose what you want to do. But he never invited me to be part of his gang at all and I truly understood this when I actually became a father. I'm a father of a 12-year-old son. And, our sons are the ones that we love most in this life. And not even for 1 second we want for them anything bad to happen. So there's no way that you as a drug dealer could dream that, your son is going to be the next guy who is going to follow you. There's no way you can think like that. If you truly love your son or your daughter, you will never invite them to be part of the drug trafficking business because you know how violent it is.
Right.
Is nothing good will come out of it. So the consequences of those decisions in my life and also in my father's life, because it was, of course, his decision to educate me uh, like a better man instead of inviting me to be part of his gang. So that I'm feeling very grateful towards my father because of that, because he always, recognized that I was more like a pacifist instead of a gangster. I love him very much and I respect him, and I also, the love that I felt for him doesn't make me blind. And it does allow me to know what he did good and what he did wrong.
Well, I so appreciate you saying that, Sebastian, because so many times people have said that to me, because my father had, a reputation. The FBI here had said he murdered 30 or 40 people, even though they didn't, they've never shown any proof of that. They just talked about it. And people say, well, how can you respect or love somebody, like that? And I told him, I said, why do good people do bad things at some point? And it doesn't mean they're bad people, if I can, and I know people have a problem with that. In my former life, there were a lot of good guys that I think were good people, but we had a certain ideology. We did things for the wrong reasons. And I also believe that, children want to love their parents. You got to give them a real reason not to love them. They want to love their parents, and sometimes we overlook some of the things they do on the outside. But when they show us love and they're good in the household, we love that. And I think it's just a normal feeling.
Yeah, man, and we are not here to judge our fathers. This is not our job. We are just here to be part of the most important things in their lives, in their feelings. So it's not our job to judge them. Of course, we have to be very aware of what they did. We have to know deeper than anyone our own stories. So we will never commit the mistake of repeating those stories. But that doesn't forbid anyone to love their own father, because it's about family. It's a matter about family. It's about, being human. And I don't think there are, even if such an extreme figure as my father, uh, even a guy like him had like, feelings about, towards his son, his daughter, his many, many family members. And I felt a lot of love from him, and I have to remember that. I have to honor that. I was raised in a culture that you have to honor your mom and your dad, but at the same time, I have to respect also my father's victims. I have to respect the story that happened, the damage that he caused, and to be very aware of that. And also, and unfortunately, thanks to that situation, I became so aware of the consequences of his actions that now, even if I grew up surrounded by bandits, now I work with kids to help them not to become in a figure like my father, to make them and feel very aware of the consequences of taking those decisions in life.
Yeah, and I do the same, and I totally understand that. Let me ask you, I witnessed some violence at a young age, and it had an impact on me. I would assume that in your case was even more extreme. And when it did happen, and I'm assuming it did, and if it didn't, let me know. How did that impact you?
Well, still today I am discovering, the impact that caused that to my spirit, to my soul, to my mind, to my body, because it has to hurt somewhere. I don't know, but I don't know if you believe about energies or but whatever we don't say or we don't mention, it's like your body cries even if from the inside
Hmm.
somehow. So I believe that, like a soldier, when you go to the war, it's like there's a lot of trauma. But I think that at least my attitude in life is to not to feel like nothing happened, but to be positive about it and not to complain and not too much, and move forward in life and embrace everything that happened in my life and be grateful about it because it is a miracle that I survived to tell the story. I'm doing my best as a human being to tell the right story, to respect the story, to respect my father's victims also, and the memory of the relatives that passed away, unfortunately, thanks to my father's orders. I'm speaking about many, many families around Colombia and around the world. So I believe that, that gave me the opportunity to embrace my story somehow and to heal also. When I approached too many of my father's victims to ask for their forgiveness and to start a reconciliation process, it's not about forgetting things. It's about healing. It's about moving forward and finding a way to live a different present, to live a different past and a different future for my son, building different relationships, not not being part of any conflict at all, became a pacifist because I do care about my son's future. And this is something that I question about my father. Did he really care about my future? Because he became so involved in many violent activities that at the end of the day we are adults and you have to start thinking, hey man, was he really loving me? Because he became part of every problem that was part in Colombia. So it's hard to analyze all of this. But for me, it's not about judging our fathers. It's about being grateful for the fathers that we did have in the past and the experiences that we learned from them. And I also believe deep in my heart that every father that we have the experience to have in our home, they were given the best for us. I'm sure of that.
Well, it's good to hear. Not good to hear that, but I understand it because my dad did 40 years in prison, and he kept getting violated. He would come out on parole, get violated, go back 5 times. And the third time of his violation, I sat with him and I said, Dad, you need to move out of the city of New York. You can't stay here. You keep getting violated. And our family is falling apart. My sister died of an overdose of drugs. My brother became a drug addict. My younger sister died at 40 years old. My mother was not, mentally stable at times. And I know he loved our family. I know it. But he refused to leave. And as a result, it just kept getting worse. And sometimes I would question him, just like you just said, Dad, I know you love me, but what's really going on? Do you love your life your lifestyle more. And I struggled with that a little bit, so I can certainly relate to that. I have a question for all my friends and followers. Have you tried my wine yet? You know, in the last 2 years, we've made tremendous progress with Franzese wine, and it's really all thanks to your support, and obviously because people are finding out we have a great wine at a great price. In 2025, we aim to become a national brand, and I want all of you to be a part of it. Every bottle you buy, every story you share builds more than a brand. It fuels a movement. The story of our wine is one of people having second chances and of lives being transformed. That's the truth. So go to my website, franzesewine.com, and get your bottle today. Salud, my friends.